What is up, you guys? This is lecture 3 if you are in the coaching mentorship, or some of you might be watching this from the Be Less Dumb education community. So I've talked about how I have certain forms for onboarding, and that's going to be the topic of today's discussion. So this is actually a new client's form. I haven't actually seen it yet, so we're going to go on this journey together. I've obviously hidden the name of the client and all relevant information that could identify them, but this will be a fun case study for you guys to see a little bit of my thought process around how I onboard clients and basically how I try to go about getting a quick entry into some areas where I can connect with the client because ultimately, as a coach, for us to have a good coaching experience together, it's a two-way street, and the better that I can connect with the person in front of me, the better that I'm going to be able to serve them. Perhaps I can't always help everybody that I work with. Sometimes you're not the right coach for some people. That's fine. But this is the entry point that I come in at, and it's what I use as a framework to try and have some deeper conversations early on. And you'll notice this is maybe a lot different from maybe what you've experienced before in seeing sign up forms. And the reason being is I work mostly with, I would say, just humans. My client base here in Budapest or online, they may be sports performance, they may be people who are training for sports. Indeed, that is my background in sports strength and conditioning. But ultimately, even if you're working with athletes, you're working with people first. So there's going to be a lot of questions in here that look into how a person actually psychologically frames themselves, what their self-worth is, what their relationship with food is, all of these things that no matter if you're an elite athlete or you're just an office worker or a single mother of 3 kids, then these questions are going to get to the crux of maybe what exactly is preventing you from reaching your goals. And I have to first off shout out Shannon Beer is the coach who I have taken a body image course under. So a lot of the questions are oriented towards more positive body image or investigating and being body image informed. So that's basically around how the client views their body. What are their reasons for change? And what is their relationship with their body? So we get into it. We start off with just the general kind of biometric. I'll have asked about name and occupation above. This individual in question is an office worker, but I have an email address question below that. So we will start from here at the height and weight and then medical conditions. So client in question has had a right knee ACL reconstruction, L5 herniation, and hearing loss in the left ear. Still ongoing treatment and tinnitus. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. I'll be interested in our opening conversation to find out, how long ago was this ACL reconstruction, the L5 herniation. We want to know perhaps at what level of movement confidence do they have? Are they still very much so someone who is a little bit afraid to move or maybe prohibitive around certain movements? I'd be very interested to see how they're moving. And also, of course, whenever we look into this left ear hearing loss and, anything that's affecting your vestibular system, your ears is going to no doubt influence balance proprioception, which that's also going to be a concern maybe around some of these injuries. So lots of information there just on medical conditions alone. No medications, fine. Sometimes people will throw in different things, and that can even, sometimes people will tell you they're taking, perhaps SSRI medication, perhaps they have different conditions and whatnot, and this all just feeds into a bit of a picture, perhaps diabetic. Nothing here, so we move on. Any intolerances as well for the diet. Sometimes you'll get some great information around, perhaps you'll have somebody who's maybe not intolerant, but they'll write that they're, vegan or whatever their dietary situation is. So that's all great information to gather, just general biographical. Now we come into a little bit more of their history, what has led the client to come to this point where they're looking to train with you. So yeah, this is just telling them that we're going to hopefully frame our conversation, and the more open that they are within this, the more information I have, the better of a service theoretically I can perform as long as I'm doing my job well. So list all concerns you have around your health, nutrition. So for this client, this will be a typical one. I just want to bulk up. Okay, so muscle gain type of client. I'm 43 and single. Interesting. Okay, so you're 43 and single. I wonder, is this motivating that desire to want to bulk up? I have trained alone without a trainer, but with my training buddy with moderate success. Okay, so maybe not as successful as could be. I'm fortunate because I see results quickly, but I never push it all the way through. Okay, so maybe as a coach, this could be something that I can be quite interested in. Like, can with some supervision, can we push him a little bit to break beyond those barriers? But since my ear injury, a savage virus that almost deafened me in the left ear after Christmas. Oh, wow. So this is very fresh, actually, this ear issue. This is, for those of you watching after, this is the 17th of February as I'm currently recording this. So just after Christmas, this is, let's say, less than 6 weeks away. So this is very fresh. I've decided to just get the job done for a really beefy summer body. Okay, he wants to put on some beef for the summer. Okay. Once I'm there, I'm open to adjusting and setting new goals, but they're 3 months to build up the body, um, to build up the bulk are body image focused, I believe. Body image and focus. Okay, so this is interesting. This is actually the first client who has ever mentioned body image within their sign up form, which is perhaps a testament to the previous lecture in which I was discussing how you want to nearly groom is not the right word, but let's go with it. You want to kind of like groom your audience into seeing what your interests are as a coach through your marketing so that then they will come to you pre-sold on the idea that they can benefit from what you're offering. So actually this is something that within the past year I've been integrating a lot more and trying to post a little bit more about on my stories and stuff around body image. So this is finally coming to fruition where actually people are now signing up and mentioning that they would like to work on body image. And also, I can say this is a male in his 40s. This is not a very typical cohort that's very forthcoming with body image struggles. So that's very interesting to me. Out of the above, what feels the most urgent? See above, open to going other directions once I'm happy with myself. This is a crucial part now. So once I'm happy with myself, I'll be very curious to ask in our initial conversation, what does happy with yourself mean? And this is very important because a lot of people maybe have this idea that they're going to be happy with themselves when they achieve a physique change. And while physique change is fantastic, it's something that, yeah, you're going to feel great if you're with more muscle mass and you're in a healthier body fat range. It's going to have and accrue health benefits, but does that necessarily transfer into happiness with oneself? I'm skeptical. So I'll not be pushing my skepticism onto the client in question. I'll just curiously be trying to ask, what does happiness look like for you? And this will be very insightful because it encourages a bit of reflection in the client. So what have you tried in the past? Getting a little history. So I've tried training programs in the past to do it myself, but I find that the ones that I have been most recently given are too complex. Okay, so simplicity is going to be a key word that I'm going to maybe write down at the top of my agenda whenever I'm writing a program for this individual. And I don't have chemistry with my trainers. Okay, so connection as well. You want to feel like we can build a relationship. So hopefully, if I can do my job well, I can be present and also embody a little bit of a receptive connection with the client, build a bit of rapport. So what worked for you in the past, what didn't, training by myself, but not pushing all the way through. Okay, so this is maybe what worked in the past. So, okay, perhaps we'll initially I was thinking, okay, maybe I could push him, but perhaps this is something he's maybe not comfortable with pushing himself following the injuries and whatnot. So this will be something maybe to be negotiated within the gym context, and that'll take a bit of, I guess, the softer skills of reading the room and seeing, okay, what's going to be a good level for him to stay motivated and push. So is also I've had some trainers that I just didn't connect with, and also that matters. I think that matters hugely. I'm in a supreme agreement. If you don't connect with your client, if you don't connect with your trainer, then why would you justify such an investment? What type of sports exercise are you currently engaging in? For how long and how many days a week? How many times a week, rather? Not that much. Okay, so coming from not too much. I played a lot of competitive tennis since I was a kid until my mid 20s. Okay, so maybe tennis, that might be something I can connect with him over in the initial phases. I watched this tennis documentary on Netflix, that crazy Aussie guy. Maybe I'll brush up on some of his story and talk about that in our initial encounters. What goal would you work on together? Looking beefy. I love his analogy. He just wants to look beefy, bro. This is, yeah, I would say that's a. I didn't have to tell you that it was a male who was was writing this. So, why is this change important to you? Body image and just something I know I can probably achieve easier than others, but not capitalizing on it. So, this sense of opportunity escaping, or that he has certain cards available to him, but he's not playing them. The ear injury, the tinnitus, requires a lot of drained energy to manage the condition. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a barrier for sure. Destroying myself in the gym helps with evening rest. Okay, we might have a conversation around what restful rest is and what real rest is. But I think for many people, it's blowing off some steam and stress reduction that they're talking about. But how confident are you? 100%. This is great. Love to see that, but also it's nearly the people who are maybe writing like 30%. They're probably the people that need your coaching and direction the most. So anywhere on that spectrum is fine. It's just good that they are reflecting on it. What does success look like for you? Critical question. Great question for your first client conversation with people. being more relaxed, more comfortable with myself, spending sincere, fun, and hard-working times together with my trainer. Fantastic. I feel he's in the right place. I'm confident that I can deliver that and have a bit of fun along the way. What obstacles do you currently face? Nil. Well, aside from the L5, ACL, and the ear, but nothing apart from that. What do you expect from me as your coach? Honesty, no bullshit. Irish jokes, even better than honest jokes. So yeah, that's something that's going to motivate him if he can feel that I'm authentically relating to him and being honest and not selling himself some BS, frankly. So that's all great, and a lot of clients will feel the same, even if they don't write that. I think that's the play, no matter what client that you're working with. Show up authentically and don't lead them up the garden path, so to speak. Finally, please share a bit about yourself. What are your favorite hobbies? What do you do for fun? How do you plan to reward yourself? This is a great question because it straight away is going to give us the opportunity to connect with them about something outside of their gym work. So let's see what he said. I'm fairly active and love sports, food, and drinking. Ho ho. He loves all the vices of a good sportsman and maybe a pint man. So I don't really diet much and would much rather exercise and lift more. Okay, so he's quite averse to, doing, let's say, a diet of very restrictive. I would like to maybe discuss with him how we can frame eating to support his gym training, eating to support his lifting, and use that as the entry point because obviously the word diet has such connotations and baggage around it that it feels very restrictive as well. Just straight away, diet. Oh, it sounds like a jail of sorts. So I'm going to try and frame our discussions around how he can fuel to, you know, do the sports that he enjoys, to have food that he wants to eat. That kind of psychology works much better. I love being outside and hiking. Yeah, fueling all of these great activities, uh, hiking or as now skiing. Skiing, very good when I can, or by the beach. So he's a real outdoorsman. Awesome. Recently got my skipper's license. I am not sure what that is, but I will Google that. Something to do with skiing, maybe? No, probably not. Okay, so now we come into these more psychoanalytical questionnaires. These are based off body image research, psychological scales, but they're super insightful and they're going to help us to understand how this client will receive information. So, self talk, I'm often very critical of myself. Agree, okay. So, something around maybe self compassion is going to be a component that is going to be critical here. I often tell myself I should do things, disagrees to this, just for you guys to know. A lot of people that are very self critical will also have very high standards and then put a lot of pressure on themselves that they should do everything or they have to be on top of the world and very perfectionist. So if it was strong agree here, I would be sending some content related to that, some worksheets that I have made for that. I often reflect on my thoughts and feelings, strongly agree. Now, these are very connected whenever it comes to self worth. A lot of the time, when people are very critical of themselves, they are the type of people who reflect a lot. And what we want to encourage is that we come into a positive self reflection because self reflection can be the driver of progress and success, but it can also be self attack, which is what we don't want because that just doesn't help if we end up talking so negatively about ourselves within our mind. And oftentimes, this isn't even in the conscious domain. This is something that just happens under the surface. But to get somebody reflective on, oh, actually, now that you say that, a lot of what my internal monologue is super negative. So why would I say this to a friend? We'll be having discussions like that. So I'm interested in learning why I do what I do. Fantastic. This is a strong emphasis on indication of a curious type of person. So we're going to lean into that and everything if we can, even whenever it's things that are critical, there can be constructive criticism, but let's get curious around that constructive criticism. Why am I, spinning my wheels in this way? When I fail at something, I'm often encouraged to try again. Agree, fantastic. This is somebody who's quite robust, somebody who can bounce back. That bounceability, as I like to call it, is going to be a great indicator that we can have a successful process. If they're strongly disagree, it doesn't mean that you can't have success with them. It just means that they may need more support whenever setbacks happen. It may mean that you need to frame whenever you tell them about their shortcomings. It may need to be delivered in a little bit of a more soft launched way where it's fed around some positives as well, because people that get discouraged easily will tend to maybe avoid checking in whenever they fail because they haven't um, got that bounceability to bounce back from a setback, and maybe they have a lot of shame around for having setbacks. So if you notice your clients aren't checking in with you, probably a little bit of shame and avoidance in there. So I often feel that I have an all or nothing approach. Here we go. Strongly agree. So this is definitely something we're going to try and work on. We will try and address black and white thinking, this kind of dichotomous, all or nothing type of mindset. And God knows I have done it myself and I will likely do it again. These skills in building to address this type of issue, it's not something that you do once and I figured out all or nothing mindset. No, we're complex beings. We probably have to review this stuff every couple of weeks or maybe weekly if this is something that's really something we're struggling with. But that is what the benefit of coaching is. I fear that if I'm kinder to myself, that I'll become a weaker person. Disagree strongly, fantastic. You'll have many people that will strongly agree, and that can flare up that self criticism, shame, all of that kind of stuff. I feel that if I become less critical of myself, that my standards will drop. Disagree. A lot of people are very high performers, but the reason why they perform so high is because they are hypercritical, or at least that's how they see it, because maybe not. Could they actually still be a high performer while, yes, having high standards, but also having that criticism framed as just a constructive criticism rather than a negative, say, self-hate loop? So I feel that I don't deserve to be kind and forgiving to myself. I strongly agree. Interesting. Okay. What have you done, man? No, I'm not going to ask him that. But the yeah, this is, the skills that we want to try and prompt with coaching questions, open questions, maybe drawing the parallel. Would you think that a friend should be able to forgive themselves for something, But it's not that you just have one magic question that you ask. It's about the what they would call in motivational interviewing, the spirit of coaching or the spirit of motivational interviewing, where you are just being like a curious friend to them as they guide through and accepting. whatever their premise is. So that I think is the most, if not one of the most powerful frameworks. And if you aren't familiar with motivational interviewing, I would highly recommend you get the book on it and dive deep into it. Getting on with life is about being tough rather than compassionate. Strongly disagree, but you will see people that strongly agree with this as well, and a lot of really high performers that strongly disagree with that. I find it easier to be critical toward myself rather than kind. Strongly agree. Okay, so self compassion. Once again, I hate being less than the best at things. Strongly agree. So, okay, a bit of perfectionistic tendencies. So, we're seeing multiple different questions that are prompting us into this. Okay, kind of perfectionist, kind of lacking in a bit of self compassion, but yet still quite resilient as a person and able to bounce back from failure. People will think less of me if I make a mistake, strongly disagree. So that's great. So in this individual, it's clearly a lot about him being hard on himself. You will see some people that they overvalue other people's estimations, or maybe they're very down on themselves in the social context. It doesn't appear to be the case here, but that's certainly something to be aware of. I have extremely high standards for myself. Boom, yes, of course. And it is important to me that I'm thoroughly competent in everything I do. Yes, boom, we're getting the full. I actually, I wonder what position this guy has in his job. I wonder if he's somebody that's quite high up in there, because that profile would certainly fit somebody who maybe at the expense of their self-care does quite well in their career. I am very good at focusing my efforts on attaining a goal. Agree, Jerome. So adaptability, I often feel stressed, disagree. I'm quite a chill guy. I feel out of control when things don't go as planned, disagree. So quite stress tolerant. I can successfully deal with changes. Yeah, adaptability, very good. This bounceability that I discussed. When I face a difficult decision, I am confident that I can adapt and respond. Very good, agree. I feel that I'm capable of reaching my health and lifestyle goals. Agree. I often feel that I don't have the time to do the things that I would like to. Strongly agree. Okay, boom, here's an entry point. Would you like to do more of? What you're engaging in this journey of self betterment, you strongly agree to this statement. This is a lack of self care. How might you structure your time, because you're not afraid of changes in your schedule or your routine? How would you feel about doing some more of the stuff that you would like to? I often feel tired and sleep deprived. Neutral. Okay, it's not sleep. Maybe. Maybe he just doesn't feel that bad about it. My feelings prevent me from doing something important to me. Neutral on this, but this is a crucial question. If somebody agrees to this, you are curiously going to inquire, what is it? What do you feel in your soul that you want? I feel comfortable trying new things and taking risks. Agree. Brilliant. Some people that will have something important to them that their feelings are preventing them will disagree with feeling comfortable and taking risks. A lot of the time they're paralyzed in that risk. So we're going to try and walk them through that. I focus on the process rather than outcomes. Strongly disagree, and this might be something that we work on together, getting some more processes and actually seeing and valuing those little process goals along the way as worthy of celebration. I often will have a little tab that I call milestones in the Notion file for my clients, and no matter how small the success, I want them to record on this day, 17th of February 2026, I done my second gym session. It was my first time and I hit my personal best in pull ups, whatever it is. Anything. Could be that I done my 10,000 steps. We start small. We start with really, really small processes and we get him fired up, get him excited about achieving those little processes. You'll see he has some physique goals. Physique change is slow. So motivation coming from physique change, you'd be quicker getting dopamine watching paint dry. So let's try and nail down what are the process things. What can you get excited about? Lifting heavier this week. Boom, that's going to be our entry point. Tend to bounce back quickly. Agree. Fantastic. I have a hard time making it through stressful events. Disagree. He's a stress tolerant dude by his own estimations. It is hard for me to snap back after a stressful event. Disagree. Hard for me to snap back when bad things happen. Blah, blah, blah. This could be one question, to be honest. I usually come through difficult times with little trouble. Yeah, agree in there. I tend to take a long time to get over setbacks. So very robust individual here. Looks like a good profile in terms of adaptability. My body image now, this is the meat and potatoes. I often complain about my appearance. You will find so many clients will strongly agree to this, especially younger clients, even older clients as well. They grew up through the whole, heroin chic, skinny, supermodel, everything's, you have to be super skinny. But even younger people now, everything's so appearance based. It's awful. You want to get people into a way of thinking about themselves, not as a piece of meat, not as an ornament to be looked at, but as, a body, a vessel that they can experience and enhance their life through, and they can, all of the joys that you have in life, you get through your body. So trying to get that appreciation for what your body does to you. Often compare to other people. Neutral, that's neutral is positive in my view because it's not the case for most people. Most people are comparing themselves to others, and the internet and whatnot does not help with that these days. I appreciate my body for what it can do for me. Agree. Fantastic. He's got a bit of functionality appreciation. So this is something we want to build, that you respect your body for what it does for you. Overall, I am generally satisfied with my body. Agree. Okay. So I'm interested that he flagged body image concerns because he's giving a fairly balanced profile so far. My appearance is an important part of who I am. Neutral on this one. This is called appearance investment. So you can either have a positive appearance investment in which you take care of yourself, brushing your teeth, doing these kind of activities of self-maintenance, even, dressing in a way that shows some personal style. That's all adaptive. That can be positive for your mental health. It's not that you never care about your appearance. That's also bad. But some people, if they strongly agree, you will find that maybe they are over invested in their appearance. And if they look bad, mental health and stress and all of that goes down. So that's something we're looking out for here. I often look at myself in the mirror, disagree. You will find a lot of people are pedantically and repetitively checking in the mirror. It's called body checking behaviors. It could be predictive of eating disorders, poor body image, and a plethora of negatives with that. So I often pinch body fat, strongly disagree. You will find clients, I've had a client in the past week agree to that, a guy as well. So this is something that doesn't just affect women. This is something that absolutely men now are getting into appearance maxing. They have these, different kind of motivations to look good, whereas maybe in the past, brush your teeth and I don't know, scratch your hair in a certain way. That was fine. That was the maintenance. Have a shower, shave. That I think is like the maintenance that used to be encouraged, but now there is through social media this pressure for young guys, all guys really, to go to Turkey, get their hair transplant. All of this. This is stuff that could be telling us that a person is struggling with their body image. I judge myself on my flaws and inadequacies. Neutral. Okay, very good. Um, I have a fear of weight gain. Disagree. You will see this quite often ticked. And in those cases, reinforcing that through weighing multiple times a week is not probably going to be the strategy that's going to help somebody. It's going to keep them stuck in that fear of weight gain. What's going to be better is to circle out of investing so much and trying to move more into, well, what is important in your life? Because these appearance-based values, they're not very deep values. And that's why people end up committing to them for maybe a couple of weeks, but they're not something that comes from the core values of the person. So if we find that they tend not to be very long-term values. So your motivation will dip, it's seasonal like the weather. And when motivation goes, what really is going to keep you coming to the gym is maybe those core values. I value the community in the gym. I value building strength. I value showing up for myself. I value challenge. Those types of things, if you can get those motivators rather than these appearance-based motivators, is going to be to the huge positive to your clients' mental health and overall just balance for their life. I think this is maybe outside of the gram, this is how a lot of people actually feel deep down, but maybe haven't got there yet because they're just unaware. They haven't had the language to express that. I respect my body. Ho ho, this is where we go. This is where the body image work comes in. Disagree. I'm going to be quite curious. Why do you respect your body? I note he has had some quite big injuries in the past, and that can actually chip away at your confidence and your the esteem that you hold your body in. So I'm going to be curious and ask this client, why does this happen? Or why don't you respect your body? I feel good about my body. Agree, maybe a bit of bipolar disorder here. He doesn't respect his body, but he feels good about it. I'm being facetious, of course. But yeah, the humans are complex. We can have all of these different things going on at the same time. I take a positive attitude toward my body, agrees. Um, there you go. I feel that my body has at least some positive qualities. Good. I'm attentive to my body's needs. Disagree. Okay, so maybe he knows that you, he feels good about his body. I have a body with some positive qualities, and I try to take a, you know, positive attitude towards it, but I don't actually listen to its needs. And maybe this comes into the whole perfectionist thing. Maybe he's sacrificing on some of those other fronts where he could rightfully be doing some more to respect his body and his health. My behavior reflects positive attitude towards my body. Disagree. So yeah, the behaviors we're going to nail down in our conversation. What behaviors are not reflecting a positive attitude? What ways? He mentioned drinking. I'm going to ask, you know, to what level is he drinking alcohol? Perhaps, he said he enjoys eating out. What kind of eating out? Are we talking Mackie D's, KFC family bucket 3 times a week? What's going on there? Worrying about my weight makes it difficult to live a life I value. Okay, so he's not really worried about weight. It seems more just built on this respect for his body that he is lacking in his behavior. Shut down when I feel bad about my body or weight. Disagrees, which is great because you will see this is something that people will just have better and worse days, and sometimes they end up just shutting down completely. And that can really, really kneecap your ability to keep making progress and stay consistent because some days we just don't feel great. We don't think that, oh, I feel bloated. I don't look good. I feel like shit, and that's part of life. So trying to build that ability to accept, which it seems that he's not shutting down, which is good, but you will find clients that do that. So it's about giving them that, I guess, emotional literacy to be able to adjust or just accept some days I'm not going to like looking at myself. Do I have to then, which you'll see some people will just keep scratching that trigger, that wound by doing body checking, by pinching body fat, by looking at the mirror, by, trying to do some negative oriented body checking behaviors. And essentially, the question is to them, when you're checking your body for the third time of the day, what more information do you think you're going to get? And whenever they make the connection of the dots that actually, realistically, no, you don't really put on weight or, get any worse physically looking in appearance over the course of some hours, unless you're in a boxing match or a street fight of some description. But that's an aside. My thoughts and feelings about my body must change before I can take steps in my life. Okay, so maybe resistant to any new way of thinking. So that'll be something that maybe could be a challenge in how I can frame some of these prompting questions. I better control over my life if I can control negative thoughts about my body. Disagree. That's good because sometimes people will want to control their thoughts as well. Strong agree. And you nearly have to just let the thoughts evaporate or let them pass by. If you try to too tightly eradicate some things, it can end up leading to more rumination. So, not necessarily a bad answer. And even anything along this spectrum is also interesting and giving us some information. Feeling fat causes problems in my life. So you'll get strong agree to this with people that, struggle with this. And often feelings of fatness do not equate to actual weight change. So that's something that I have some more content that we can discuss on another day. Self-worth for the following statements. We're going to have a little look. My self-esteem does not depend on whether or not I feel attractive. So, okay, disagree. His self-esteem is tied to feeling attractive. Welcome to the human race. A lot of people are sharing this. We would, of course, everybody feels better if they feel like they look better, but whenever that gets in the way of our life, whenever that's something that is stopping us from doing the things that we value, that's whenever we have to intervene and ask questions. My sense of self worth suffers when I don't look good. Agree. Boom. So, same again. My self esteem isn't related to how I perceive my body looks. Neutral when I think I look attractive, feel good about myself. Yes. And there's no problem. By all means, ride that wave up, but it's just to be aware and accepting that you're not going to feel $1 million every single day. I don't care what others think about me. Agree, that's a good profile because a lot of the time, sometimes, as I mentioned, this can be like very social based. This can be like trying to look good for other people. Maybe it is for a romantic partner or the lack of. Perhaps people are trying to look a certain way based on other people's values, and that's something that can be interesting to us because that's perhaps not the deepest core value. What others think about me has no effect on what I think about myself. Agree. Very good. I don't care if others have a negative opinion about me. Agree. Okay, so this individual really is not someone that's taking other people's opinions to heart. Self-esteem comes from whether I follow my own moral principles and values. Strongly agree. Okay, brilliant. So now I think it's just that self-criticism. It's about this individual has certain values, has certain ways of looking at the world. He also sees opportunity that he's not taking, and then that's fueling self-criticism because he's not going for it. So my self-esteem comes from whether I follow my own moral principle, blah, blah, blah. We already done this. My self-esteem comes from whether I follow. Is that the same one? Cowboys. Cowboys, Ted. So, relationship with food. When I smell or see my favorite food, I find it difficult to keep from eating. Neutral. I usually feel too full after social occasions. Neutral. I feel anxious around eating in situations. Disagree. You'll see this with people that are usually on the diet spectrum, that, full on diet culture, and they're counting calories and they're super anxious to even have like a social meal. And that can be something that we address by asking them around, like, why are you not allowing yourself this important social aspect of your life? Surely this is something that's adding to your life, and that's usually boiling back to a fear of weight gain. I sometimes avoid social situations because I feel anxious around food. No. Find myself eating when I'm lonely or bored. This is a big one for emotional eating. Not indicative here. I often stick to my diet during the week, but have a hard time on the weekend. This is usually where we'd see the drinkers, the partiers will strongly disagree, or strongly agree rather, that they cannot keep it together on the weekend. So it's about not lecturing them, not they're adults, but also telling them, inquiring how they can set it up so that they can have a social engagement that is rewarding enough to them, that it's adding to their lives, but also factoring in what their goals are and trying to make sense or reconcile the two of those things if they're important. Because for some people, their social life is just outright, it's highly important. Loneliness is a massive thing these days, and if somebody associates behavior change with, oh, I'm going to not spend time with my friends, then it's no wonder that they don't succeed. So it's about finding ways that we can get people to fill up their social cup while also maybe reducing their alcohol cup. But that's a conversation for another day. When I start eating certain foods, sometimes I can help strongly agree, okay, interesting trigger foods. We may look into some mindful eating, or perhaps even a food diary where you can check in and try to tune into the body's signals. This wouldn't be indicated on people that are very overweight. Sometimes you get hormonal changes in the amount of ghrelin that is released, so that can be a little bit of a contraindicated method for individuals that have had some hormonal changes like that. But overall, that would be something that I would be looking into, mindful eating. I think this individual said around 85 kilos, so that wouldn't be indicated in this instance at his height. I believe there are some foods that I can't keep in the house. Disagree. Okay. Yeah, you'll find some people that restrict things, and then that restriction is a high predictor of binging. I know what I should be eating, but I can't stick to it. Agree. I think this is a bit of a theme actually throughout this whole case, is that, yeah, the client actually knows a lot, or we will figure out together how much, because perhaps where the information or what information he's sticking to is perhaps typical diet culture information, which could be, let's say, varyingly effective information. But that's for us to discuss. But it seems like a bit of a theme that he knows roughly what he wants, but he can't get it. And that's this intractable problem that we're going to try and solve together on this journey. I often think about food even when I'm not hungry. Disagree. You'll find people that have very high food focus, maybe consistent dieters would show this profile. The consistent boom bust yo-yo, as they say. Having a hard time recognizing when I'm hungry. Interesting. So he wants to put on size but can't recognize when he's hungry. Interesting. It could be tied to being so super busy. That's quite common. I plan my day around my meals and exercise. Agree. So he's also kind of like planning. He puts some structure in here, but perhaps that's sticking to a plan at the expense of actually listening to his body. So that's something we will discuss. Exercise. I exercise because I enjoy it. Love to see this. Whenever you see people that don't love exercise, it's quite tough. I always like to really focus on making their sessions enjoyable or like gearing towards, some people, yeah, maybe they could benefit from strength training, but they really enjoy whenever I do some boxing pad work with them. So I'm going to give them the bare minimum of strength that's going to, just justifiably, this will help your posture, your movement. You get the lion's share of the benefits from that, your core strength, but then get them doing something they enjoy. That could be anything. And it's your job as the coach to try and empower them to find what that is. I exercise control. I exercise to control my appearance. This is something that maybe eh, can be problematic or can be adaptive. I would say appearance only goals on their own are probably not substantial enough to solicit long-term change, but that's something that, you know, we can discuss that it can be something that can be included on an ongoing basis alongside these deeper motivations and values. I would feel guilty if I skipped an exercise session. Disagree. So whenever these control appearance and this one are a strong agree together, that's kind of flaring up like maybe that compulsive exercise for appearance type phenomenon, which can be an indicator of poor relationship with exercise, poor relationship with food, and perhaps some other disordered eating patterns that often will accompany it. So, with all of these, obviously, your coaches, I'm just a coach who's done body image course as well. If I see somebody who's flagging up for a lot of these things, I'm going to refer them out to a body image informed coach or someone who is a clinical practitioner who's trained to work with clients who struggle, because sometimes you will see clinical issues. And the reason I really, really got into this side of thing is because I've seen like so many of my clients, they say that they had a body problem, but really they had like how they think about their body problem. So if you as a coach can see some of these preclinical red flags, you could potentially stop somebody developing towards a full-blown eating disorder or a full-blown self-image catastrophe where they, end up into this negative feedback cycle. So that's where the value in this stuff is. That's where I think you can have this superpower to influence people and catch them whenever the fitness industry is just priming people to diet and starve themselves and all for appearances and all for what? For stuff that they don't really, if your body is the most interesting thing about you, then you're probably a boring you know what. So that's my take on it. Social support. This is the final part. Thank you for sticking it out. I know this was a bit arduous. It's a lot quicker whenever I'm not talking throughout the whole thing. Whenever I do it, I'll just scan and have my notes. I might dictate a little bit into Notion, and then I'll have all of these thoughts just laid out that we can go through in our conversation. But I feel like family and friends and others significantly try to sabotage my weight loss efforts. This can be massive. This can be something that if somebody doesn't have social support, it can be so detrimental. You can be fighting against, that it's literally hopeless odds, to be honest with you. If somebody has, a social setup that really is going in a different direction than they want to take, that can be really rough. I spend time with people who talk about weight loss and dieting often. This can happen a lot with especially, I'll even use like my family members whenever, I'm around certain people who, let's say, the older members of the family who just grew up in that culture of, oh, geez, oh, you're so skinny, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, and it's just, it becomes that conversation or every mealtime, it's like, oh, are you going to give me the butter? Oh, no, no, I can't. Or these little comments about, God, the state of me, look at me after eating this. Those little things can seep in and they can really, they say that you're the product of your closest, whatever amount of people. Somebody's really stuck in an environment like that. It's tough because it can get right into your nervous system and embedded. Good to see that it's not the case on this one. And I often spend time looking at fitness, weight loss, and or related social media content. This is a two-edged blade. Look at you're now on the internet learning about how to support your clients. You're hopefully getting some useful information. It's not the case in every corner of the internet. I don't need to tell you that, but of course, you go on to Instagram, people that are fitness models, all of this. If this is what you're seeing on a daily basis, this is what you're comparing yourself to, it's toxic. It takes away from your own self-worth, even consciously or unconsciously. So fantastic. This guy's probably lucky, 43, probably not the biggest social media guy. So shielded somewhat from that. I know that maybe women of the same age would have probably got from Hello magazine and all of these, you know, magazines that glorify, and airbrush female bodies and whatnot. Thankfully, not the case here that he's comparing himself to these unrealistic images, but something to be aware of if your client flags. So I hope that that was useful. I know that I can meander on for a little bit of a while, and the whole structure of this one was a little bit different because I was reading this for the first time as well. So I hope that you found that useful. I'll have some little prompts in the lecture notes, some little activities for you to get to afterwards. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. Peace.